Right, good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be on this planet. My name is Robert, and I'm here to discuss about my music. Now, I just want to point out with the music that I've got here, this is not pop star stuff or boogie woogie stuff. It's got its own variant diatonic sound. My favourite band, one of my favourite bands is a band called Rush. They come from Canada, and Rush's music has stuck with me over so many years. Now, I'm not saying quite on the same market place as Rush, and I'm not saying putting myself as being anywhere near as good a musician as what they are. I'm going to take you back in time, back in the 80s when I was in my punk days. I'd listen to all the punk bands and all the stuff. I'd get on the drink and all that sort of stuff. But underneath, at the end of the day, when I'd actually come home, I'd be listening to John Williams' classical guitar and sort of stuff. See what I mean? Because I still want to be a musician. Now, I just want to say I must thank Jared from 4TY Studios in Melbourne, because I made a horrible mess of this. And this is the mistake that I made. I wanted to make it sound like Rush. You're not Rush. I buggered it up, so he cleaned up the mess beautifully, and I had to go back and I've redone guitars and bass lines, because being the perfectionist I am, I want to do it correctly or not at all. Now, I just also want to point out I've still got to do 2 bass solos, two classical pieces and a steel string piece, which I'll go to recording very shortly, but I've got to get my technique up to standard, so I've got to do that. Now, just very briefly on this, what I must say to you now, I like the heavy rock music, but my first film clip is a piece of music called Night Sky. Now, I much prefer to record on the classical guitar because it's just so much less problematic to record, and it's really me in the long run. The Night Sky is my first film clip, and I actually wrote it for Anastasia. It's based on the ringing cedars of Russia, like Vladimir McGrath, who was an entrepreneur who met this most beautiful woman who lives all alone in the western Siberian taiga forest, and she's absolutely overworldly beautiful. As Paul said, a human being perfectionist. Human being perfection. She's born of Mother Gaia, Mother Earth. She can do all martial arts, she can speak all languages. She's absolutely an extraordinary woman. And I thought about her in the Night Sky session. I was watching the stars, I was having a few beers, and the melody, the main focal melody actually came to me. The main keyboard melody came to me, and the classical piece that came to me is called, it's the energy of transcendence, or energy of Neptune. It brings in the creativity, and you'll see this on Night Sky, because in the long run, Night Sky really puts me where I really want to be. You can check the filming out to this, because as my soul origin is actually from the star constellation of the Pleiades. Now, why I would bring this up? Well, with my music, I actually came across on the internet a very nice woman called Louise, who's psychic, and she has extraordinary abilities. Now, even though, well and truly because I had even discovered Louise, I did question her psychic abilities, and I tested her, and she was spot on with her predictions. I did tell her about the project. I spoke to her about Anastasia. I mean, when I go on Skype with Louise, it's never boring. It's always interesting, because, other people I listen to after I get a bit bored. But Louise is an exceptional talent. She's got a lot of talent, and I put her on my project, and I asked her very kind permission. That's on the Sanctuary session, part 1. Now, is she going to like that? Well, fingers crossed, I'll find out very shortly. But I did say to Louise that this is not pop star stuff by any stretch of imagination. I do have a piece of music for you called Hispania, which is a celebration of your community and your achievements and what you're going to achieve. It's a fun piece, it's a happy piece, because we need some light in this dark day. So I didn't want all the music that I rewrite to be gothic. Now, I just want to point out, just briefly mention about this insidious virus, and I believe that this is one thing I really want to touch on just before I get to ufology. There's a lot of theories out there. Some people saying it's World War III. Louise said it's World War III. Somebody else saying they're using radiation rays, and the virus doesn't really exist. It's just a big conspiracy thing. So we're getting all confusion. I took a whole step back on this, Louise. I think they want conflict. They want to confuse people. I think you're right in what you said, it was World War III, because when I watched on the TV and this virus happened, you could see people dropping dead on the streets. I thought, hang on, is this a science fiction movie? But it was real. But I got to say, I sort of feel, Louise, and not just Louise, but everybody out there, that we have to go through this, that we will get through this. It will have to take its course. It will take its course. And we will get through this. I sort of feeling that perhaps maybe it won't be over till about close to 2022, I believe, approximately that time frame. I believe that close to 2022 with this insidious virus, because it's affected the whole world. It's affected everything, But I believe that we'll get through this, and I think with my music can give people an escape from this sort of situation that we're all in this time period. But mind you, that we're very lucky in Australia. I think some countries might feel a bit envious, especially of Tasmania, because at least we can walk around and go outside and be beneath the stars and have my classical guitar with me and do some writing and stuff like that. So I believe we're very lucky here. Now, I just also want to point out two people out there. I did mention about, on the news there's been a lot of UFO sightings, and I just want to point out the 12th planet Nibiru. We've actually got a piece of music called Nibiru with Paul Wiegand on vocals. It's not a pop song, but to people who haven't heard of these things, I just want to say to you that Nibiru is the 12th planet in the solar system. If you can read the Mesopotamian clay tablets, which is in Sumeria, and Sumeria, which is in the Middle East, Nibiru translates to the planet of the crossing. And the Anunnaki, those that came from heaven and earth, they helped build the pyramids. The pyramids we have in Egypt are actually like energy transmitters for spaceships, and not just for bearing pharaohs. And they're perfectly aligned with the planet Mars, which is the planet of war. This is very interesting. This is what I'm really focusing on, because I've seen UFO flying saucer firsthand. I've seen it. It was on the news. People mightn't believe me, think, oh, come on, don't be so silly. How many drugs did you smoke last night, Robbie? How much did you have to drink? Well, nothing at all, but it's real. I've seen UFO. I've been aboard. I experienced these things. I remember telling Louise that my whole body was, when I was going to sleep, being levitated towards the ceiling, and it was real. I wasn't drunk, I wasn't on drugs. She said, well, that's because you've been taken aboard, Robbie. She told me that. And this is because we're beginning to awaken. When I mean awaken, we're beginning to move away from the third dimensional reality to the fifth dimension, but it happens very, very slowly. These things happen gradually. I believe that we're in for a very difficult time, but it has to get worse before it gets better. It's one of the things. It's going to get worse before it gets better, but we will get through all of this. We will get through this. It's a difficult time. It's not pleasant. It's very, especially, like I said, we are very lucky in Tasmania because we've pretty well handled it very, very well. That's why I would not want to be in America or the United Kingdom at this particular time period. But coming back to what I've said about my UFO experiences, these are from direct personal experiences. So this is why, people, why you're just making up, but if not, I've seen. In fact, if you go back to the news, I think 2005 in Tasmania, there was a big UFO sighting that was on the news. They said they saw us, but I saw it too. I was downstairs at my flat. I looked at the nice big pulsating blue flashing, go right up. It was on the news 2005 was on the news, and I saw it firsthand, and everyone was saying, oh, I saw a spaceship, and I saw the thing too. And if you could check back on the internet, about 2005, 2006, I think it was that, they had this big UFO sighting. It's not the first time I've seen these things. I have asked Louise, and I said, well, why can't they just come in? Because they can't do that, because we have to get through this. We've got to work to evolve towards them, and it's a certain galactic law that says they're not allowed to interfere with human affairs, and this is absolutely necessary. But things are ramping up. As we get more towards 2025, we'll become more aware. Now, some people out there are going to hear this and think I'm a load of silly nonsense, I'm just making this up. Well, I have seen UFO flying saucers. I have actually been on board. I've been aboard a few times. Louise said to me that they've actually upgraded my DNA. Now, what that means, it doesn't mean to say that I've become superhuman. I am not psychic. I make no claims to having special abilities, just becoming more aware. And gradually this is happening with myself and other people as well. It's not just me. The whole planet is awakening. But we have to go through this very difficult transition in order to get to the next level, if you know what I'm saying. So now, once again, I'm not here to ram my music down people's throats. You do not have to believe me. I am not a psychic. I make, as I said, no claims to having any special abilities. All I'm true is to try to provide a cyberspace alternative. And I did want to go film track, soundtrack way on some of my music, which I've done. I've got the Night Sky thing and I've got Sanctuary on the way. And also, just want to point out there is some musicianship, so we've got to put a lot of work into this. On that, I've said my piece in my interview. I've probably expressed a lot of things. I've spoken about Nibiru and all that sort of stuff, and I've mentioned about musicianship, hard work and practice, and I've said I'm not trying to be rock star, country or pop star, providing a cyberspace alternative. And if I would suggest with the music, you know, to have a listen to it, keep an open mind. It's variable, it's got heavy rock stuff, it's got some classical stuff and some samba stuff, so different variation on that project. So if you would care to have a listen, I think you might find it quite interesting. All right, well on that, for this interview, I just want to wrap things up for now, and it's called Project Infinity. That's what I'm going to call it. It's a good name because it's taken a long time to do this, and it's cost me a lot of money, and I've done so much practice to try to get things right above board. It hasn't been an easy road. It's been financially very draining and psychologically quite stressful to do this on my own. But I hope you enjoyed. The tracks to look out for will be Night Sky, Nibiru, that's the 12 parts one to have a look at, and there's the Anthem Session, which is a very uplifting piece of music, and the Spanier, that piece of music is for you, Louise. I want you to do a film for this. You did agree to that, and we'll do all the editing on our neck of the woods. Otherwise, it's going to cost me too much money because the exchange rate in the UK is, you know, it's double the amount of money. I not have very much money, but we will get there. If you're interested in that session, Louise. Putting everything aside, I'd like to wrap things up now with my very brief interview, and I will see you on the world tour or in cyberspace, wherever you may be. So I'll catch you all later. Thank you very much, and good night.